themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That testing can be really important too. So it has, some information in there. Does most of the family live in California or are they
No,
spread?
no. Six of his kids, they live here in California. The other six are in Mexico.
Okay. So I know this testing is available in Mexico.
Mm.
At most of the time, it's at a doctor's office that either takes care of cancer patients or is at a hospital that is with a university.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they can take that information to their doctors and show it and say, can I get testing for this? And they'll make those arrangements.
Okay.
Um, yeah. Does Juana have any brothers or sisters? Hermanos, for Juana?
She has one brother, and
Mhm.
he died already. He was
Oh,
85, but no cancer.
no cancer. And did he have any children?
He did have children.
Hmm.
He did have children.
Yep.
Uh,
So I would also share it with those cousins as well, so they can find out. Um, the important part of this is that for people who have the gene, they have a higher risk of getting certain types of cancer. And so for people who test positive for this gene, we want to make recommendations that can help reduce their risk of cancer or um, have them get checked more frequently so that
mm,
if a cancer happens, we can catch it early and treat it successfully. That's the whole reason for considering the testing. Um,
mm,
for Juana's, each of her children, everybody has a 50-50 chance that they inherited this gene from Juana.
mm,
Okay, so some people will have it and some people will not.
mm,
The people who have it have a higher risk of getting certain types of cancer. So for the women, there's a higher risk of breast cancer and
mm.
there's a higher risk of ovarian cancer. For men, there's a higher risk of prostate cancer.
Prostate cancer.
Yeah, yeah. And so usually for men, we don't really recommend checking for prostate cancer.
Mm,
It's done with a blood test now, usually when men get to be in their 60s or 70s.
mm,
But for men who have this gene, we do recommend that they do that blood test for prostate cancer and that they start it at a younger age.
mm,
So it can affect men as well, even though most of the risks are uh, for women who have the gene.
mm,
And then for people who don't have the gene, who did not inherit it from Juana, their cancer risks are the same as everybody else. So
mm.
they just follow the regular guidelines
Okay.
for mammogram or all the other regular checkup guidelines. They don't need to do anything extra.
Okay.
And then to go to the next generation. So if someone tests positive and they have this gene, then for each of their children, there's a 50-50 chance of passing it on every time they have a pregnancy. For the ones who test negative, they can't pass it on if they don't have it. So their children don't need to get tested or, talk to their doctor about it. So it's important not only for the children, but then the grandchildren and so on through the generations.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
Um,
that's something good to know.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Um, so what I emailed to you, Alonso,
Uh-huh.
was a letter
Uh-huh.
that explains, what is this gene? What does it mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where can I ask about testing? How can I do this? So that information I recommend you share
Mm-hmm.
with all of your brothers and sisters and
Okay.
your cousins. So
Mm-hmm.
then, and then you've done your job, right? You
Mm-hmm.
People can choose to follow the recommendations. Some people may not be interested. That's up to them. But at least, you've provided the information for them.
Okay.
And then there's also a link in the email that I sent you that has, it's a website that has very accurate information about this gene. So I know on the internet with medical information, it's, there's good information and there's bad information. But this link that I sent, that information has, it's checked by doctors and it's accurate information.
Right.
And that organization does have some Spanish resources on the website as well. So that if family members prefer to get this information in Spanish, that website does have some links that can be helpful as well.
Okay. You at the beginning when you start, you say that you guys did some sort of science lab work,
Mm-hmm.
and it come up positive for everybody to check.
Correct. So any time a woman is diagnosed with ovarian cancer,
Mm-hmm.
it is recommended that the doctors do a genetic test to see is the ovarian cancer from a genetic or a hereditary cause,
Mm-hmm.
or is it just a cancer that happened and is not related to genetics at all?
Mm-hmm.
So for Juana, her test was positive,
Mm-hmm.
and the name of the gene is called BRCA2. We say BRCA2 or BRCA2. So that's the gene that's in the family.
Let me get that again. What was
Yeah,
that? B.
B
B is in
or
Victor.
B as in basketball.
Basketball. Okay.
Yeah, B
B
and then R
R
C
C
C
C is in Charlie.
C as in Charlie.
Uh
See?
huh.
A for
A.
Alonso,
Uh huh.
and then the number 2.
Number 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm gonna
Okay.
talk to my doctor about that.
Yeah. So that's the name of the gene. About 15% of ovarian cancer is because of a genetic cause. And then about 85% is not genetic. So Juana is in that 15% that has a genetic cause from this BRCA2 gene.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's most of the information that I want to make sure you have for your family.
Mm-hmm.
You said that no one in the family has had cancer, and this is, sometimes when families find out that this gene is in the family, it gives them the opportunity to go and get checked and learn more about, like, what is my personal risk of getting these cancers. And it might be that your family, because there's not many women, it's mostly men, that for that reason, maybe some of the sisters did not even get the gene, and so they don't need to do anything extra. But maybe some of the men have it, but the men with BRCA2, the risks are not very high to develop cancers. And so, that could explain why there's been no other cancer in the family tree.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good to know, doctor.
Yeah. Do you know about your grandparents, your abuelo, Juana's parents? Did they live to an old age?
Yeah, the grandparents, her mom and her dad, um, they live in a long life, but they didn't have cancer.
No cancer.
No
Okay.
cancer. No.
So this might have come from your abuelo, your grandfather, because men can carry this gene and pass it on and never develop cancer. That happens quite frequently. So yeah, those are the main recommendations. And if you look through that document that I sent you, it kind of summarizes everything that we spoke about today. And also that link will have information, and it will have, I encourage you to share that. It's also in the document, that link, so that your family members can find accurate information about the BRCA2 gene as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Do you have any other questions? I want to make sure I try to answer all the questions you might have for today.
I'm gonna ask you again. They did they did some sort of lab work, and it shows that the kids can have cancer.
Not cancer, but that they have a gene.
They have a
that
gene.
The risk of some cancers
Mm-hmm.
is higher than the average person risk.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
for example, the average woman has a risk of about 1% to
Mm-hmm.
get ovarian cancer in her lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Women with BRCA2,
Mm-hmm.
with that gene,
Mm-hmm.
the risk is about 40%
Okay.
ovarian cancer. So it's much, much higher.
Much higher, 40%.
But it's not 100%.
It's not
Right?
100%.
So it
Yeah.
doesn't mean you will develop cancer, but it does mean
Mhm.
the risk is much higher. And so you need to take steps for
Mhm.
cancer prevention or for early detection.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Uh-huh.
Or women in just, the average woman, the risk of breast cancer is about 10 to 12%. That's
Mhm.
for every woman.
Mm-hmm.
For women with the BRCA2,
Mm-hmm.
the risk goes up to about 50 to 60%. So
Mhm.
it's much higher.
Right.
Same thing. There, women can choose to have more frequent mammograms or checks of the breast tissue. There's different things that they can do for dealing with that higher risk of getting breast cancer.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that information. I appreciate the time that you took to tell us about it.
Of
Thank you.
course, of course.
Thank you. Que Dios me la bendiga.
God bless you, she says. Mm-hmm.
Gracias, Juana.
Mhm.
Gracias. If you have any other questions, you have my email,
Mm-hmm.
and you can also ask Nancy or Dr. Jennison, the ovarian cancer.
Okay.
And they can, explain in more detail if you have any extra questions. But this doesn't change anything for Juana, because Juana has already had the cancer. She's already been treated for it, and now I understand there's other medical problems that you're dealing with. Those are not related to the BRCA2. But it's really more important for the family to know about this.
Right. Uh-huh. Yeah, she got cancer when she was 83,
Yeah.
and now is 7 years later, and she's pretty good.
Yeah. No, she's done very, very well.
Mm-hmm. The cancer never came back, anything like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One thing we know, that women who have many children
Mm-hmm.
have a lower risk of getting some types of cancer. So that may have actually protected her for most of her life from developing cancer.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care, Juana. Good luck with your surgery, and thank you, Alonso, for helping your mom out with all of this information.
No problem. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.